Do you have a minor panel damage on your car which is too small to claim on, but noticeable enough to annoy you? Then come along with me and I'll show you step by step how to fix it while saving you some money. Let's go. Hey guys, Musa here from Quantum Home Improvements and Solutions. Welcome back to the channel. So I bought this Holden Cruise, which is made by General Motors, back around about 3 years ago, and I bought it at a fairly good price, and one of the reasons was because it had a major damage just on this rear quarter. Now it's major in the sense that anything on a quarter is hard to fix, so they dropped the price a fair amount. But the car itself had low mileage, and I don't do much driving these days because of my spinal injury, so for me it worked out fine. Holden Cruise don't actually have the best name, but I found this car so far has been pretty good for me. So I've done a lot of spray painting and panel beating in my time, especially in my youth, but I only used acrylic paint, and now everything is 2-pack enamel, and I felt a little uncomfortable trying to fix this up. So I went to our local paint supply store, which is Auto West Paint Supply, and spoke to Ryan, and he was just incredible. He's got a lot of experience, and he gave me step by step the new process, which is not that much different to what I know. So I'm going to show you step by step how to fix it using the best practices. But the first thing we need to do is first safely jack up the car, take the tyre off and put a stand underneath and make sure that it's secure. This is a pleasant surprise. After taking all the screws out and taking the internal plastic mudguard out, I've discovered that there's a lot more room behind this actual arch on the panel damage, and so I'll be able to do a bit more panel beating than I expected. The reason I'm happy about that, because when you're using body filler, the thicker you make it, the greater chance it's going to crack, and if it cracks, water can get in and rust it, and we don't want that. Okay, so now I'm going to bring this panel out where it's damaged. It's gone in probably about, I'd say about 8-10 mil, and we're just going to bring that out. I'm just going to bring it out slowly. You don't do any kind of bending of metal too severely. Just do a little bit at a time. And as a template, we have the other side, which we can compare and see how it's looking. So if you bend steel too much, you'll get what you call metal stress, and then it will start to pop in and out, and you don't want that, okay? So just do a little bit at a time. So this archway is coming out beautiful. I'm very happy with that. Just got a little bit more to go, and I need to just panel beat that area there. If I can get in there, just a little bit there as well. Okay, so I just checked the other side, and I put the level there, and the level was level from that point to there, it was level, and then it starts to slowly open up, and that is looking almost exact. So the only problem is here, there's a bit of a dip. One thing I forgot to mention, I always put my wheel under my diff just in case the jack falls or if something happens with the stand. So I've got the stand, the jack and the wheel supporting this car, and they're holding pretty tight. Okay, so they're not loose at all. So just extra precaution just in case. You don't want this car to fall on you. Okay, so now I'm going to fix this dip that's just here. And the way we fix that is by using a dolly. Now this is a cam product. There's different ones on the market. Now this has a curve this way. So I'm going to have to use this flat spot. Now there is a curve going this way if I have a curve running the opposite direction, which I may have to use in here. Okay, and now this is a special hammer for panel beating. So you've got a flat end here and you've got a bit of a spike there, so you can get into tight spots. Now I'm not left-handed, so this is a bit awkward for me. So you can see there, someone's already put some kind of putty here. So there's already been damage before this. So I thought there may be, because that crack is now starting to rust, and I thought there was something a bit odd there. So what I'm going to do now is just grind that whole area, just grind it from about here all the way down to here, make it all bare metal so I can put some putty on top of that. Okay, so we have an original panel damage, which is just here. Okay, so I've just got to take a little bit more out this area here. I didn't want to take too much without looking at it. I'm going to try to pop that back out if I can. I probably can't, but I'll try my best. So yeah, so now I can actually fix this section up. They didn't fix it, they just bogged it up, which is not a good idea. All right, so now I'll just take the rest off that's a bit easier to panel beat now without that nicky in the way. Okay, there's no metal stress there, so that's fine. That's really good actually. There's a little bit of filling in there, probably about 2mm just in this area here, which is actually not too bad. 2mm is next to nothing. Okay, so that turned out really good. I wish I could have done a little bit more panel beating just in there, but unfortunately the internal mudguard, the metal bit, curves around this point here and curves inwards, so I'm not able to get right up there, but it's not too bad actually. And this archway here is still intact. It's still the right curve. Just a little bit here is bent in, but I'm gonna have to put a little bit of putty just there. Okay, so now I'll apply the body filler, and the brand I'm using is Isopon, which is a pretty good brand. So it's also known as Nicky, so people in the industry do call it Nicky. So I'm gonna put the Nicky on now. So you take the lid off, and inside you'll find the instructions, you'll find a little applicator, and you'll find the hardener. So it's a two-part mix. So you don't apply much, so when you mix, just mix a little bit at a time. So you got the putty, and you put the hardener in. You don't put a lot of hardener because it will go off too quick. Okay, so just put enough. So if you want it to go slow, just put a little bit. If you want this to go off fast, then put a bit more. So you've only got a couple of minutes to use this, so you've got to be fairly quick. So mix it in really well, make sure you don't see any of the hardener. And now using the applicator. So I think I've made a bit too much mix, but that's fine. I'm not going to put it all on. Okay, so I've got to build up that area there where it's been damaged, just on this little corner here. And I'll fix that with the little tool. So I've definitely mixed too much. That's fine, I don't need that much. Okay, I can already start to feel it's going hard. Okay, so you don't play around with this too much, just put it on and leave it. Okay, so now I'll just fix this area here up where there is a little bit of damage on this little edge. So I'll use this little tool to guide it a bit easier. Just thicken that up a bit. So you can see that's gone hard already. So I'll just peel it off, and that only took about 5 minutes or less. So just scrape that while it's still a little soft. Clean up your tools really well. All right, so it's curing nicely. It is fairly warm, you'll find, because it's a chemical reaction between the two-part mix. You can see it's pretty warm. But this is okay to sand now. It's been about probably 15-20 minutes, and I'll just give it a quick rub down. So I'm using 60 coarse paper and using a sanding block. So you can see immediately where the high spots are and where the low spots are. So just a bit of a high spot there, but just dips there. So I just need to put a little bit more just in that spot, but it's not too far off actually. Take it back to its original contours. I'm very happy with that. So a little bit more up here and then ready to put some more on. All right, so I've only mixed a little bit this time because we don't need much at all. Now there is a bit of a roundness here, so I've got to bold it out. So I'm going to make it a little bit rounder. That's the contours of this panel. So I'm just going to round it off a little bit. Okay, so once again, this has gone hard. It's looking pretty good. So this time I'm going to sand it down with an 80 grade paper. So just take it off a little bit gentler. I can feel there's still just a little bit of a dip there. Yeah, just a little bit of a dip there. So generally I put 3 layers of this body filler, this Nicky, just so I'm not overfilling. I don't have to spend so much time sanding down. Yeah, so it's a little bit of a dip just there as well. Very minor. Talking about 0.5 millimeter. Okay, so I'm using my fingers here to go with the contours of this curve, and there's a curve just going around here, so I've got to keep to that contour. And if I'm unsure, I'll go back to the other side and just see how that contours look, just as a reference. So this is building up nicely. Just got to build it up just a little bit more, but it's almost there. Okay, I'll just do this one more time and it should be right. That's it. So I'm going to put a little bit here. I didn't put any before. Just put a little bit there. Just in case there's a high or low spot there somewhere. Okay, so this time I've given it a couple of hours to dry and it's actually cooled down, so I know it's at its maximum strength. I'm just going to open the door up and just sand it one more time. Okay, I can still feel a little bit of a dent just here. So that's where the rise is. I need to build up just a little bit more of a rise just there. So I'm almost done. I was hoping this was going to be the last one, but I've just got to put a little bit more. Now, where did I feel that one? Just there, okay. Don't want to put too much here. Okay, so I've just got a little bit on the bottom here. A very small amount. So now I'm going to change the grade of paper to a 180 and just give the Nicky one more sand just to make it a very fine surface in preparation for the filler undercoat. Okay, so that's all done. That looks really good. That's got the contours I need now. So this is 95% of the way through, if not more, in the filler. So now I will rely on the spray putty to fill the rest if there are any low spots. But that's feeling really good. A huge improvement to what it was. And you can see here, it's got a nice arch again. Okay, so now we're ready to put some paint on. So I'm gonna just quickly cover up the wheel and all the parts in here, so we don't get any overspray. Now we're going to clean all the grease off these panels. Okay. Just to allow the paint to stick properly. So this wax and grease remover is actually Auto West's own brand. So it's Auto line and it works really well. So what I'm going to do now is just protect all the areas from the overspray. Okay, so first I'm going to use Protec 426 etch primer because we have some bare metal here. Now, it is actually suggested that you use this even before you put your Nicky on. Now, because I'm actually in an undercover area, it's not a humid day, I'm not expecting this to rust. So I've just given it a quick clean, but you do put etch primer to stop the rust from coming in. If you're going to cover it pretty quickly, then you don't have to use etch primer. But the best practice is to use the primer before. I've just chosen not to. All right, so I'll give that a nice quick spray. That is looking incredible. A nice contour, I'm very happy with that. When you finish spraying with a can, always turn it upside down and just get all the excess out and then just wipe the nozzle. So that way the next time it'll be clean. So the edge primer is now dry and now I'm ready to put U-pol High number 5 High Build Primer Filler. And so this is a really good brand, one of the best on the market for spray cans. And so the reason I'm using it, because I want a high quality job and I want it to last. So there's two things to keep in mind when you are spraying. First of all, the temperature. So the optimum temperature is between 20 to 25 degrees Celsius and with a low humidity. And the second thing is to make sure that your cans are shaken very well. So you can hear that there's a noise coming through the can. That's actually a little marble and it's mixing inside. So just make sure you mix it really, really well. So I've just checked on the temperature and it's 22 degrees Celsius, which is fantastic. Okay, so now I'll get to spraying. Keep in mind when you are spraying that the room needs to be ventilated or you need to wear a mask. Now there's not a lot of fumes coming from the can, but I still might use a mask when I'm using the top coat. Okay, it's dry now. I'll put on a second coat. So on the can it illustrates that you can do 1 to 2 coats and you leave it 60 minutes to dry between. And so don't put it too thick because it will run. So now I'll just let it dry. I will take the paper off because I need to use this car tomorrow morning and then reset everything back up again. All right, so the primer filler is well and truly dried. I've gave it a full day to dry out and this is now ready for sanding. So now with the sanding, I'm going to use a wet and dry paper and I'm going to start off with a 320 and then I'm going to go to a 600. So with wet and dry, again, I'll use my block, just use a little bit of water and a rag. Okay, and just lightly sand it. Remembering to sand with the contours. Okay, so just here there's a slight indent that crawls back up the archway, so this is flat here and just meets at that point there. So I'm just trying to get that contours looking original, or as much as possible anyway. Okay, that's looking really good. It's feeling great. There's no lips anywhere. That is really good. There is no imperfections anywhere. That's a nice curve there. That feels nice and round as it should be, and here is flat to create that little curve there that they've got in the panel, and that's looking good. This U-pol high number 5 is brilliant. It's the best filler I've ever used. Ryan, you were spot on, buddy. This worked out really well. I'm very impressed with it. Only had to do this once and it's just sanded down beautifully. I had a couple of spots there that had some bare metal, so I went back and put some Protec Etch primer, and then I put some U-pol high number 5 again, and so now that's dry. So this time I'm going to sand it down with a 600 grade wet and dry paper, and then just hit it with a number 1200 paper, and in preparation for putting the white paint on. So I'm not going to take too much off now, just basically get the surface ready for painting. And I'm going to sand back a little further back in the white section, and I'm going to blend in the paint into this area. Okay, so we'll let that dry up. Okay, so before we spray on the white and the clear, first we're just going to give it another wipe with the wax and grease remover, and just give it a good wipe everywhere. So we will be blending in this area here and down here. So we haven't masked that up. We're just going to blend the colour into it. So to save me from getting a compressor and spray gun and all that, Ryan mixed this custom coloured for me. So I got the compliance colour from the car, gave it to him and he mixed it for me, and it wasn't that expensive, let me tell you. So I'm going to have to do this in a flow. So what I'm going to do is 3 coats of the white, and they're going to have to be light coats because when they're in a spray can, the paint is a little bit thinner. So you can't put too much paint on, it will run. And keep it around 15 to 20 centimetres away from the panel, so it's less chance of actually running. So first I'm just going to spray the undercoat and just brush in this little area here. And then when I put the clear coat, I'll go take it about a little further. So to make this a bit safer, I will be putting a mask on. Okay, so I'm going to give it 5 minutes between each spray. I'll just keep my eye on the time. So every 5 minutes, I'll give it another coat. And so I'll give it 3 coats. And then when that's finished, I'll go straight to the clear. Okay, it's been 5 minutes. So now I'll give it another spray. Now the window of time is actually 5 to 7 minutes. Okay, once again, it's 5 minutes. I'll do the third coat, but this time I'm going to open the door and just spray in the arch as well. So now I'm just about ready to put the clear coat. So with the clear coat, I am using the U-pol Clear 2K, which is a really good product, I'm told. So you take the red bit off, you put it to the bottom, and you'll hear a noise. Okay, so that's all the way in. So once you push this little red button in, you only have 24 hours to use this can. Now, some people do put it in the fridge and it lasts up to 7 days. The manufacturer doesn't recommend that, but I believe it can work. I forgot to mention that I will be blending it higher this time, so I did spray the white till there. Now I'm going to go up to here and blend it in nicely. But I won't paint up to that point there because it will leave a little step. Okay, so I'll let that sit for another 5 minutes and give another coat. Okay, another 5 minutes, just over, and we're ready for the final coat, the final spray of the clear. So this is a little bit thinner than what I expected, and I put a little bit too much on, not overly, and it's just run just here. But that's not a big deal. It is a clear coat, so when it dries, I'll just sand that down with a 1200 paper or even a 2000 paper, and probably just touch it up just a little bit more. Okay, third coat's finished. So now I'll just let it dry overnight and tomorrow I'll rub it back. Okay, so next day I've allowed about 12 hours for this to dry and it's feeling fantastic. Just a little bit of a run there, as I said yesterday. But yeah, that can be sanded out quite easily. It's actually not that bad. So now I'll just take off all the protective newspaper. Hopefully there's not too much overspray. When you do spray cars, usually with a spray gun and compressor, it will blow out a big area, but using spray cans, it doesn't. That is a great colour match. Ryan did a good job. So there's a bit of a gloss showing just where I've sprayed, and that's because of the 2-pack clear. So now I'm going to rub it back with a 1200 paper, then go to a 2000 paper, and then I'm going to buff it up. You can see now after it's been sanded and dried, it's actually blended in beautifully. The colour match is perfect. And you can see the gloss on the door here that's polished already. So once we buff and polish this, it should actually match. So I hope I pronounced this properly, but the buffing compound I'm going to use is Freckler G360 fast compound. So I'll just apply it on. And so to help me buff it, I'm going to use this arbor. This is just a small device made by Freckler. And so you get the pad, it's only a very soft pad, a foam pad. I'll just put that on top, okay? And I'll just buff it up. So that buffed up beautifully. You can't see the old to the new. It looks fantastic. Very happy with that. Okay, so now the final thing I'm going to put on is Auto Glim Polish. Okay, the polish is now finished. All I've got to do now is just put back the internal plastic mudguard, put the wheel on and take the jack back down, and it's done. So the sun has fallen, which is great because the job is now complete and I'm finished. This turned out amazing. I can't believe how well it was matched. So cars fade over a period of time, and this car is 8 years old, but this is roughly about a 95% color match, and so it's just brilliant. And I'd like to say thank you to Ryan for all that time he gave me to bring me up to speed on how to use 2-pack enamel, and this just blended in beautifully. I have never done such a good paint job with a blend. So usually you'd paint the whole panel, and in this case here, I only painted to that point, and it looks fantastic, just blended in beautifully. But the biggest problem is now it's shown up the rest of the car and it looks dirty. So I'm gonna have to wash the car and polish it. So if you're looking for a good auto paint shop, I will put a link below for Auto West Paint Supplies, and I'll also put a link below for all the products that I used. So that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. And if you have any comments, please leave them below and I will get back to you. And I'd ask you, please consider to subscribe, hit the like button and share this video, and there's many more to come. Thanks guys.